nobody gave up. For the first 10 weeks, they've been obliged to depend on supermarket supplies for food and drink, on canvas and polythene for shelter, on paraffin lamps and Wellington boots, all the mess and compromise of a camping holiday. But on May Day, as they promised themselves, they got rid of the lot.
Building the roundhouse was a fantastic achievement. In comparison with the tents, this was like a 5-star hotel. We were warm, we were comfortable, we had the fire in the middle of the house.
Once we were in there and we had a central fire and a sense of community, things became very different for most of the time. And I think we've all got really fond memories of sitting around the fire in the middle, still dodging the smoke, but actually getting some heat from the fire and telling stories.
Yes.
Doing odd tasks in the evening.
Hey, close the door.
What's your name? Winter.
Go on.
Oh, yeah. Down.
Milking always had to be done before breakfast. Lindsay was one of the volunteer milkmaids. Another was Sarah. Later on in the year, people would have swapped jobs quite often, but at this stage, most of the milking was done by the 3 girls. Goats prefer to be looked after by the same people every day, otherwise they get anxious and confused.
Have you had a drink?
There's milk on.
Breakfast was almost always the same. A porridge of boiled wheat, which had been slowly cooking all night long, with milk and honey if there was any. No crunchy breakfast cereals.
The food was an issue. It was very, very boring. We ate boiled wheat for breakfast every day except Sundays. Sundays we had a treat. We had a little bit of our home-baked bread, which was unleavened, very heavy, very solid, and a smear of honey and maybe a smear of butter. So that was our treat. So the diet was very boring.
Since they were so low, I'm surprised that they reasonable. They've been here quite a long time.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Whatever the difficulties, the villagers found ways of coping with most of their everyday domestic problems, like washing clothes without soap powder.
Siri? No. In fact, it works a lot better than we'd thought, really. It's quite effective. The shifts don't come very clean, but the woolen stuff comes very clean. Gets mud off and stuff without any problem. Don't need soap for that. But well, you can see the colour of the water. Get something out. No, we're all quite impressed with it, really.
If they didn't miss washing machines and detergents, they certainly did miss shampoo. The solution for this was a tub of warm water and a nice lump of clay.
I've just warmed up the water with our pot boilers. That's why it's gone this funny grey colour. I usually get my hair wet before I put the clay on, but got my hands clay first this time. I find it works quite well for a couple of days and then it feels really dirty again. But the first few days it feels quite clean.
We did wash during the project. I mean, I don't think Iron Age people probably would have. We used clay slip to wash our hair and warmed up some water, and that does leave it feeling clean. I mean, it'll go squeaky and it feels quite clean. I don't, not clean by today's standards, bouncy and shiny, but it made it clean. And we actually used to bath in a half barrel and heat the water up in that and use clay to sort of semi-wash with. We did find, because we slept in the sheepskins and they were never washed, there's quite a lot of lanolin in them, that we got little brown elbows and knees were always slightly brown, had little greasy marks on them that didn't come off. But you can't see yourself, there were no mirrors, so we didn't know what we looked like, so that was okay, really.
One of the essential everyday jobs was grinding the corn for the daily bread on Iron Age quernstones. They ate corn for breakfast, corn for tea, corn with everything. But one of the other staple foods was cottage cheese, made from the curds of soured goat's milk, drained in a linen bag. At this stage, everything was a bit of a struggle, even finding a way of baking their bread.
This is a hole in the ground which we're using as an oven. It's, the idea is that we light the fire in the hole to heat up the ground around. And then when the fire's died down, we rake out the ashes and embers, put the loaf of bread in, put a big stone on top to keep the heat in, and it bakes with a bit of luck. But we're having a bit of problems with this one. The loaf I'm going to put in now has been baked once, and this is going in for second firing now.
It wasn't just the practical difficulties of getting enough to eat. They also had to come to terms with the emotional tensions created by living in close proximity with relative strangers, cut off from the outside world. I asked Jill and Pete if this was a problem.
Yes, it's difficult, but I can't think of a way of explaining easily how it's difficult at the moment.
No. Well, the way we are at the moment, we haven't got any privacy at all, and so even when we go to bed at night, you can't even whisper things,
yes, when we
really,
want to curse about Sarah Rockcliffe,
sure that
you can't do it because she's listening to you.
I mean, supposing you did want to say things secretly. Perhaps that's just a silly thing, to think that we do want to talk, to have privacy, talk amongst ourselves.
Well, we do, because, I mean, you do talk about people, you do express opinions on people, and you can't really do it if... Yes, I do. I talk about you all the time.
Especially that,
Or even make love.
Yes, or even...
What's that?
Big screw, yeah.
Yeah, that's difficult as well. It's all right,
you have to get up early, you see, or go to bed.
Yeah,
you
that's
have
right.
to get up early and go outside.
Yeah. People go for walks a lot more than they used to when we were living in tents. I don't know what it means exactly. They do.
Nightly ramble.
Some people were noisier than others, and I could name names, but I don't think that would actually be a very good thing to do at this point. And you just really ignored it and just went your own sweet way.
wasn't actually something we discussed, was it? I don't think.
No, probably not very much. You just, as other things in the other people's habits or whatever was going on, we did give each other that privacy, I suppose, which wasn't really a privacy at all by today's standards.
The heaviest job they'd done up to this point was cutting 3 acres of hay by hand without even the benefit of a scythe, only the heavy, long-handled Iron Age reaping hook. How hard do you find it, Jill?
Pretty hard. We've tried almost every possible variation of position now, sort of kneeling or standing or stooping, and we've made all the muscles ache that apply. And now we're trying different grips because we've got blisters in various places, so you're having to stick your thumb in other positions, which of course isn't quite as effective. It's pretty hard and quite warm.
The whole group of us spent probably 6 weeks cutting hay that was used over the winter to keep the animals going. And because our scythes weren't sufficiently sharp, it took far longer than it probably would otherwise have done. And after we'd cut this hay, it had to be carried back about a mile, wasn't it?
I
to
think
be
it was.
stacked. So it wasn't actually back-breaking as such, it was just so time-consuming, some of the work.